Back when I was in high school, I had a relatively pretty interesting system of determining how important different things were that were going on in my life. The system was how many alarms did I need to set before I actually woke up or something. So school, one alarm. If I missed it, I missed it. Somebody would wake me up, that's all good. If there was, I don't know, like an early morning basketball game that I wanted to get to, 2 alarms. If I missed the first one, I should get the second one, all good. If there was a doctor's appointment that I really needed to get to, that'd be 3 alarms. If I missed the first one, then I get the second one. If the second one, get the third one. The more alarms that I had, it was because I really felt that was something that I really needed to get to. Now, sitting in chair I was by Aaron Khan, Rosh Yeshiva in YU a few years ago, and he pointed out the following 3 Rambams, and it actually reminded me of my high school career. There's a Rambam in Tefillin Mezuzah and Sefer Torah. There's a Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, apropos for where we are now, and a Rambam in Hilchos Avelos. And there's a common theme that runs through all 3 of these Rambams. We like to be medayik from the lashon of the Rambam. The Rambam knew what he was writing. He went over his Yad HaChazaka multiple times, and the words that he chose to use were very medayik. So the fact that he has the same phrase in all 3 times and the similar themes all 3 times in all 3 places means he's trying to give us a message. There's something he wants us to pick up on here, and we're going to try to read through a couple of these Rambams and see if we can pick out some of the messages built into these halachos. So you guys all learned the sources. Let me ask you, what was the number one thing that jumped out at you? Going through these 3 Rambams, what were some of the common themes? What were some ideas that, let's start with things in common, some things that jumped out?
Waking up from slumber.
Boom. That was obviously the number one thing. Benji, the number one thing that we're looking for is each one of these 3 Rambams is meant to be some sort of a wake-up call, an alarm. Ye'or Mishnaso is the phrase which shows up all 3 times. If you're following along on the sheets, it's in the first Rambam on the second line, V'yiskor ahavaso v'ye'or Mishnaso. Then in the Rambam Hilchos Tshuva, it's very early on. It's basically the first thing he says. Even though the mitzvah of shofar, Tkiyah shofar on Rosh Hashanah, is a gzeres hakasuf, it's a mitzvah from the Torah, still remez yeshbo, there's an important idea or a hint or a message that we're supposed to be taking out of this mitzvah, and it's uru yeshenim mishinaschem, wake up slumberers, wake up sleeping people from your sleeping. So that's number 2. And Rambam Hilchos Avelos, this is at the very end of when he's writing about the halachos of mourning, he says, and somebody in your immediate circle passes away, you need to take that as a message, and again, he uses that same phrase, v'ye'or mishnaso. You got to wake up from your sleeping, you got to wake up from your slumbering, and recognize something's going on. It's meant to be giving you a message. So, thank you. Number 1 message is ye'or mishnaso. We have 3 different alarms that can be set for us over the course of either the course of a year, course of life. We're going to be analyzing specifically what the symbols are, what the alarms are. For number 1, 3 alarm clocks. Fantastic. Anything else? Anything else that jumped out?
Some sort of consistent theme, at least in the first and second one, about life, about when we are quote unquote sleeping. It's not that we're like intending to sin. It's more that we're just kind of going through the motions.
Nice. Okay. Very good. Another. I think you're right. It is in the first 2. There's a phrase of shigiosav b'havli hazman. What the person is doing in his sleeping, in his slumbering, that he needs to wake up from. He's kind of just going through the motions of life. He's not really intending to do the wrong thing. He's not a bad guy. He's just not necessarily focused totally. Shigiosav, the things that he's kind of doing without totally thinking. That word, again, same word, shigiosav, shows up in both the first in the Rambam Hilchos Mezuzah and the second in the Rambam Hilchos Tshuva. I didn't explain the context of the first one. I'm sorry. Let's just go back to the first halacha. Basically, the Rambam says after describing all the halachos involved in having a mezuzah, where you put it, what kind of rooms need it, what kind of rooms don't. He says, what's the point of mezuzah in the first place? He says a mezuzah is a constant, consistent reminder every single time you walk in and out of a room. You're pogea. You bump into the Yichud Hashem. You have the first 2 prakim of Kriya Shema written into the mezuzah, and miyan, immediately you remember Avas Hashem. And then he goes into this whole idea of ye'or mishnaso, waking up from your sleeping, and gets you back on doing the right things, focusing you on the positive things of life. So Benji got a second one. This idea of shigiosav b'havli hazman. Cool. Let's look for a couple of differences. What was the motivation what's the motivation for the alarm in the first one as opposed to the third one? The Rambam in Hilchos Mezuzah as opposed to the Rambam in Hilchos Avelos. What's motivating the wake up? Yes, I can give an example, right? You have anybody here camp counselors? Cool. So if you want to be like the really nice camp counselors, then when it's time for wake up, what do? Put on like what? No, the nice counselors.
That is the nice one.
No, the nice ones. What do? Maybe you put on some music, like a gentle, like, all right, guys, time to get up, or whatever it is. You do it nicely if you're going to be the mean counselors. The strong counselors, I guess. Yeah, the water, the ripping out mattresses, flipping beds, whatever, everything's going crazy. You have two very, very different types of wake-ups. You have the nice wake-up, and you have the positive, pleasant wake-up, and then you have the much more stronger, harif, get out of bed, you gotta, or we'll, I don't know, douse you with water type wake-up. So we have, like we said, we have 3 alarms. Do we see differences in the type of alarm, let's say, between 1 and 3? DJ, you got something?
No.
Nah, it's all good.
First one
Thanks, on a roll.
is talking about your messengers, the different mitzvahs that surround you,
Okay.
and inspire you to wake up. The third one is you have the sword that's sort of hovering over you.
So
Threat of death.
let's focus on the sword, the threat of death. That's exactly the metaphor the Rambam uses. When somebody in your chevra, somebody in your community passes away, you have to see yourself, you have to see life for a few days, for a certain period of time, as if there's a sword that's right in front of you, around the corner, and you're basically in your zone. You have to appreciate that this guy passed away, you may pass away also. There's a very strong feeling of fear. Is exactly the Rambam uses. Let's go down to that third source. In that first line, Kol mi she'enu mis'abel k'moshe tzivu chachamim harei ze achzari. This guy is cruel. He's not taking the messages that Hashem's giving him, and therefore bad things are going to continue to happen. Ella, what should he do? Yifached, he should be afraid. So the motivation here in this third one is pachad. Is this fear? Is this yira? Let's go up to the top one. Do we have a contrast to the yira of the third source? Benji's got 3 for 3 already. See if somebody else can grab this one. Is there a contrast in the third source? What was the motivator for the wake-up, for the Yeor Mishnaso in the first source, in the Rambam Hilchos Mezuzah?
And more like to know how great Hashem is, the awe of Hashem.
Well, I'm looking for one word. It's the contrast of the Yira, and he uses it.
Yeah,
there it is. So let's read it. Chayv adam lihizar b'mezuzah b'mnei shehui chovas hakol tamid. Kol zman sheikanes v'yetze v'yifka v'yichud Hashem shmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every time you walk in the room and you encounter this presence of Hashem, yizkor ahavaso. You're going to remember. You're going to be confronted with. You'll bring to the front of your mind avas Hashem. When we already said these 2 very different types of wake-ups. One may be more effective than the other. One may make more of an impact than the other. But 2 very, very different methods of accomplishing the same thing. They're gonna impact you in slightly different ways. The pachad of death is obviously going to have a very different effect than the ahava of Hashem loves me. He's asking me to do specific things. Of course, I'm going to try to motivate myself to do better. So right now we pulled out a couple of interesting ideas. We have 3 different types of reminders. There's the mezuzah, there's the tshuva, there's the shofar, and there's the death. The motivator for death is obviously fear. Is if you don't want to die, if you don't want to get killed, fix your mistakes. Stop messing up, stop messing around. Whereas the first source, the mezuzah source, is much more ava, much more positive, much more Hashem. Is this amazing, I guess, deity, entity, who wants the best for you, so you may as well, it's better for you if you can get into shape. There's one thing, I think this is, we'll make a couple more points, and we'll try to wrap things up. There's one thing which is not mentioned in the first source, but shows up in the other 2, which is actually very apropos for where we're holding right now. The Rambam says in the last 2 sources, that what's going to happen when you're Yeor Mishnaso, what's the direct outcome of you waking up, is there's some element of tshuva. The first source, no mention of tshuva. Doesn't show up at all. He's taking stock, he's looking around and trying to figure out what he's doing, but there's no mention of tshuva in that first source. Do you guys have any suggestions as to why that might be? That the pachad of misa and the shofar motivate tshuva or end up with tshuva, but the mezuzah, even though it's a yeor mishnah, so the mezuzah is waking you up from your slumber, it's not leading to tshuva. Why not? Suggestions as to why not? Yeah.
It could be coming to God, waking up through Abba is already a form of tshuva.
Okay, nice idea.
Pachad would be a stepping stone, Abba would already be the end result.
Cool. So the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva does draw distinctions between Tshuva Mi'ava, Tshuva Mi'ira. The Rav Soloveitchik likes to talk about this idea. Also. So Benji's saying maybe you could suggest that the Ava that's being, I guess, fostered when you encounter a mezuzah is already its own form of Tshuva. The Rambam didn't need to say there's a separate step of Tshuva. It's already happening. Nice suggestion. Cool. Any other suggestions? Yeah? Just raise your hand. Cool. So I'm going to make a different suggestion, but Benji, I like what you said. If you look at the end of the piece on Hilchos Mezuzah, what does the Rambam say? He says any person, kind of wraps up the halacha and really the whole section this way, any person who has tefillin on his arm and on his head, and he has tzitzis on his clothing, and he has a mezuzah, I would have expected him to say mezuzah on his doorposts or mezuzah on his house. He doesn't say that. I'm not sure why. Yeah, he doesn't say it though. He just says mezuzah. He says tefillin on his arm and on his head, tzitzis on his clothing, and then mezuzah. I would expect it on the house, on the doorway, something like that.
Pisco.
Yeah, it says.
Not in my Rambam.
Well,
Really?
yeah.
I guess you're wrong.
That's very interesting. Oh wow. Okay, I just have tefillin briosho v'zero, tzitzis v'vigdo, mezuzah. Okay, different yourselves. Nice. Okay, that point goes away. We answered that question. What does it say? Muchzak hu shelo yechta. That guy has a chazaka. The guy who has tefillin on, tzitzis on, and a mezuzah on his doorpost has a chazaka that he will not sin. So maybe with that point, why does tshuva not mentioned in this context?
You need that.
Why don't you need it?
The maskir, the monitors.
Exactly. You have these monitors. You have the tefillin. You have the tzitzis, and you have the mezuzah. You will not sin. You only need tshuva if you've done averos. But if the Rambam's guarantee, right, muchzaku shelo yechta, you only need tshuva if you've gone to a place where you've done averos. But if you have these three things already built into your life, you have these three maskirim, these three different types of mitzvahs, which are telling you keep yourself focused, get yourself in the game, keep doing the right thing, keeping this ahava flowing, then you won't need tshuva. Because you've already gotten the message. Whereas these other two halachos, these are more the shocking types of saying you're stuck in the havlei hazman, you're stuck in the day to day, and you're not focused on the mitzvahs. You're not focused on the things that we're trying to keep in mind, especially now, but really for our entire lives. That's when we need that wake-up call. That's when we need that step to, I clearly have messed up before in my past. It's time for me to get some tshuva going. So the last thing to point out, I guess we're going to close, is these three halachos are three very, very different areas of life, right? Tshuva is talking about shofar. When does shofar happen? Right, once a year, on a schedule. We know when it's coming. There's no surprises. Kind of like we know when it's going to show up. It's basically our yearly reminder, like, hey, you're a year older. Take stock of your life, and hopefully you can get yourself back in the game again. When does mezuzah happen? Every 5 seconds, every 5 minutes, every single time you go from door to door in your house, moving, you're coming in, you're going out. That's really, there's no set time for that, but it's really you're being pogea ba'avas Hashem. You're encountering avas Hashem really all day. So there's no set time for that. It's really constantly and consistently. And what about the last source, the Hilchos Avelos?
Sudden.
It's very, very sudden. Again, there's no set time like the shofar one. The shofar was very, very set. There's no set time for this. This really comes out of nowhere. This is the most shocking one of all. This is where you really get smacked in the face with the alarm clock. This is like, I guess on the iPhone, it's a really loud, blaring one that somehow always seems to go off in the middle of shoppers because whoever has that one on his phone just forgot to shut it off. So it's like that, like bam, bam, bam. That's that one. That's the Avelos one. That's one that's just going off. There's no set time. You don't expect it. It's just gonna like smack you. Three very different types of alarms, but each one is to help us, slight differences, slight commonalities among all of them, but the point being, give us different opportunities to remind ourselves that Hashem is giving us the opportunity to get back in the game, to think about how we're approaching life, what we're doing with our lives, how we're really maximizing the opportunities that we're having here in Yeshiva, and hopefully we're going to have post-Yeshiva also, when we start living our real life outside the bubble. Hopefully we all had a tremendous opportunity to learn with our parents, learn with each other, and I enjoyed giving this over. Thank you very much. Have a great Shabbos.